Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Ranking the Albums here on Sunday, alongside in the co-captain's chair, Mr. Jamie Laszlo. And as you can probably gather from all the cool stuff around him and the video playing in the background and the
There's
shirt
stuff
he's
on the
wearing,
floor, Pete.
we are doing Pat Benatar today. That's right. Jamie and I have been talking about doing this for a long time, and it was just a matter of me kind of getting back up to speed on the catalog, because Pat is one of those artists that I was listening to back when she first debuted on the scene back in the late 70s, early 80s. And I just kind of fell off touch with her music over the years. So what I've been doing for the last couple of months is I've been getting back into the Pat Benatar stuff, and I will say I've quite enjoyed this assignment because it made me kind of remember, why I really liked her to begin with, and made me sorry that I kind of lost touch with her music over the years. So we've got 11 studio albums we're going to be ranking today. We, of course, will start with our number 11 and work our way backwards. So I will have Mr. Laszlo kick us off with his number 11.
Well, I got to tell you, Pete, look, this is how it is. When I first started doing videos with you, maybe the first 1, 2, or 3 videos, I used to get real nervous. Maybe the 7 videos, I don't know. But I used to get nervous. I used to set up everything 4 hours before the show, make sure everything's perfect. And sometimes I just stand in front of the camera 2 hours before show waiting. And then, I stopped doing that. And now sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing. And I'm like, what are we doing today? And then I just go into it. This was kind of like the old school feeling I got. A little excited, a little nervous, because 2 years ago, I never thought I'd be doing anything like this with Pat Benatar, someone I, loved for 40 years. Just didn't see it coming. So it's very nice of you to go back. Get those. I didn't expect you to get all 11 albums ever. 12 if you got Live from Earth. I don't know if you got
do. Yep,
so 12 albums and listen to them and put in the work. I didn't expect it because that's a lot of songs, a lot of albums. But I think it's really cool that you did that. And for the record, people, I didn't harp on him to do it. I mentioned
No,
it.
he absolutely. No,
I said
I will
maybe
reiterate
me
that.
and Lynn do it because she knows the music, somewhat. So
Yeah, I this was all on me. I just decided, and I don't even know exactly when it kind of came to me, but I was thinking, I don't know, I was listening to some Pat stuff, and I was like, you know what? I should go and revisit this whole catalog. And then once I made that decision and I started doing, I said to Jamie, I was like, you want to do that ranking episode? By the way, I must remark, that video playing behind you, I love that look.
oh
With the
yeah,
big
yeah.
hair. Oh man, yeah, that was the look.
That was made for HBO, I believe.
Yeah, the
I
short,
had the
hair
VHS
pattern
when
was
I
like,
was a kid.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So anyway, I
Uh,
didn't interrupt you. I'm sorry.
oh, that's fine. Anything you want to bring up as we go along, Pat related, I'm all ears. I'm very interested to see because I am so, these albums, I'll be talking about the music, but my ranking has a lot more to do than just the music for me. I'm going to be coming from strictly just the music. So I'm real curious to see how you rank them from your point of view.
Yeah, well, keep in mind too, and for everybody watching, it's like I have a fair amount of history with like the first handful of them. And then, like I said, I kind of
Right.
dropped off. So there were a number of albums in this catalog that I only just heard for the first time over the last couple of months. So I've been trying to kind of revisit those, or visit for the first time, I should say.
Right.
And it was interesting when putting the ranking together that some, or a couple that I thought would be at the top, maybe didn't quite make. I don't know. I think my ranking surprised me because I had like preconceived notions of how it would be, and in some ways it didn't really turn out that way. So
Me too,
I won't
Pete.
say any more.
I almost didn't even re-listen to them, and I just almost came on to wing it. I'm glad I re-listened and took notes because my order was different than what I expected. And as these go on, and I was making notes, I was starting to do self-therapy, I think. And this shit got really personal, and I'm deciding how personal to get with a few thousand people. But we'll go. I'll feel it out. Coming in at number 11, though, I'm going to go with Go, the last album from 2003. The issue I have with this album is everything feels a little forced. The production feels forced, the songwriting, even kind of the album cover. And if you look at the album cover, this is kind of what the production sounds like It just and look, I hate saying bad things about this woman because I love her more than most of my family members. But we're starting at the bottom, right? That's how this works.
Yep.
So this is the only one she ever kind of let me down a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying it's terrible. Uh the first song, Go, isn't awful. You know, it starts off like a rocker, but then you got those forced lyrics in it where they're trying to force words to rhyme together, like pick yourself up, get yourself moving, don't turn around, just keep on going. Oh, that's a little forced there for moving and going. But Brave, Brave, they do the old switcheroo, which they've been doing since Wide Awake in Dreamland, where they come on with the rocker, like, oh, this album's gonna rock, and then right away, track 2, pop song. Yep, they let you know right off the bat, we're still gonna do the pop music. So that's what Brave is. I Won't really tries hard to be a really good song. I think it just a lot of these songs need tightened up. And I will say the bridge in I Won't is my least favorite moment of any song in any Pat Benatar record. It just feels out of place. It doesn't feel well thought out. It's just kind of there in the song. Have It All is good. I have it all, do want it all. Sorry is good, but they both sound similar. Sorry does have a really cool Spanish guitar in it, though. Please Don't Leave Me. It's a slower pop song, but it might be my favorite song on the album. Well-constructed song. Girl, again, the live version on here, I think, is better than the one on the live DVD, is better on there than the studio album. Out of the Ruins is cool because it's a little folk song, and In My Dreams comes on next, and I'm like, ugh, it just doesn't do a lot. Her voice saves it. Her voice will always save a bad song for me. Then Tell Me and Broken Hearted are decent. Broken Hearted is actually really good, but you know, it's been 20 years since this album.
Yeah.
Neil keeps saying that songs are written. Record them. Let's go. Strike while the iron is hot, because there's Pat Mania going on right now. They just had that Invincible musical that ended. She just got into the Hall of Fame. She's going on tour with Pink on a freaking stadium, playing to a younger crowd. Get those songs recorded now and strike while the iron's hot. And I don't want them to go out on this one. Not somewhat of a disappointment for me. But I promise you, if you stumbled across this video and you're a Pat Benatar fan, you're thinking, this guy, he's a fan, and I'm talking bad. It all gets better from here, guys. I promise.
Yeah, more about Go in just a couple minutes. I think for me, my bottom 3 were fairly easy. And then from there, and I don't hate any of my bottom 3. I just, to me, they're kind of mediocre in spots. And then from like number 8 on up, I, have some pretty good things. Well, even number 8, I have some issues with, but everything past that, I think I like a lot. Anyway, my number 11 is going to be True Love from 1991. It's his 8th album, or his 8th album, their 8th album. I want to say their, because this,
It's a band.
It's a band and it's a partnership, right? So, but even though she's got the name on the marquee and all that kind of stuff, this is a well-made album, and it's really well done. But it's, the music here shifts to kind of like swing and what they call jump blues. Loads of covers, right? It's interesting because, like I mentioned, I had never heard this before till a couple months ago. And I remember when I first put this on, and I had heard about this album, and then I put it on, and it was kind of jarring for me. I'm like, oh wow, this is kind of different. Different good, different bad, I don't know. But Pat sounds tremendous on it. I mean,
oh yeah.
Paying the Cost to Be the Boss is a lot of fun. I Feel Lucky is upbeat, got killer horns. There's a lot of horns on this album. I love the sultry, slow blues of the title track. There's some great sax on I Get Evil. I mean, overall, this is enjoyable. It's really different. It's not really something I would reach for often. And I found that, I've listened to this a bunch of times over the last few months, and I'm kind of like, will I ever reach for this again going forward? I don't really know. I don't dislike it. I think it's good for what it is. It's just maybe for what I expect and what I want from them. It's too much of a stretch. but I give them lots of kudos for doing this, right? Because it
Right.
must have taken a lot of, to put out something like this in the early 90s is like, is anybody going to listen to this? We really want to do it. As it turned out, this didn't really do too well, right? But still, I think they took a chance and give them credit for that. So that's my number 11. Not terrible at all. Really different from everything else, though.
Hey, and just an FYI, I do have some knickknacks out. You might be looking at this and saying, is that a Pat Benatar clock? Yes, I bought this in 1986 at a little record store. I can't even find an image of it online. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how you got it. It's obviously from Crimes of Passion because of what's on the clock. My dad bought it for me. I asked him, can I have $30 for this clock? And I totally expected him to say no. And he reached in his wallet and gave me the money. I couldn't believe it's still to this day the coolest thing my dad ever did for me.
Nice.
He bought me this clock. It still works too.
I found most of those kind of weird clock things that you see out there that have bands and movie things and comic book or characters and stuff on them. I found most of them were custom made or very specialized made, not like mass produced. So that might have been something that someone just made and somehow it wound up in a store somewhere.
Even in the 80s with the numbers embedded into, yeah, maybe it might have been. Whatever. I like it. It's cool to me. My number 10 is going to be True Love. Now, I don't have a Go shirt. I should probably get one just to have them all. I do have a Live from Earth shirt, though.
That's great. Yeah, it's a great one.
That's a great one. And I have a True Love sweatshirt, and that's coming in at number 10. I like this album a lot more than a lot of people do. I saw the tour where she only did blues songs. I think she was opening for Hall & Oates. I went there. I should have stayed. I saw Pat do her thing. The horns were great. And I'm like, I got to get out of here. I didn't even see Hall & Oates.
Oh, really?
No. Dude, I went to go see her open up for Steve Miller Band in 1996. I was somewhat new to the area in Virginia, and I didn't know where the pavilion was, so I didn't get tickets beforehand. I'm like, I'll never find, this is before Google Maps and everything. Finally, the day of the show, someone said, dude, you just go down the highway, and they gave me directions. I went, got a ticket right there, right before the show at the office. I said, do you have anything open in the pavilion underneath the roof? Front row center. There was one ticket sitting there that nobody bought because normal people go to concerts with at least one other person.
Yeah.
And I sat there front row center, and she did her thing. And then Steve Miller was coming on. I'm like, Tina's got quarter drafts tonight. I'm getting out of here. Because I was never the biggest Steve Miller. He comes on, he does his greatest hits, and and I was like, nah. So I also miss Steve Miller. The biggest Steve Miller fan was probably sitting on the grass, and here I am, front row center, going, I got to get out of here.
I'm out of here, right? Yeah, exactly.
Awful. So, Rolling Stone said, I'll never forget. I think it was Rolling Stone. They said, you should hurt to sing the blues. It shouldn't hurt to listen to the blues. And to you, sir, I say F off. This is a fun record. Bloodshot Eyes is fun. Paying the Cost to Be the Boss, a B.B. King song, actually got a lot of airplay at the time. So Long, it's the that swinging slower song, might be her best, my favorite vocal performance of any song, especially at the end where she goes a cappella. I used to play that end for people when I was 21 back at Penn State. Just listen to that. And they would humor me because, yes, that's wonderful, Jamie. That's great. But it's filled with upbeat, fun songs. I don't grab it that often, but every time I do, I go, I need to listen to this more, because I listened to it a lot in 91 and maybe even 92. I listened to it a lot. True Love is great live in the early 2000s. And I think he does it on that DVD where he comes off the stage and walks around the crowd on the floor and does this 6-minute, 5-minute guitar solo around everybody. And it's just wonderful. And then on the CD version, you got the Please Come Home for Christmas that I do play at Christmas time. It was dedicated to the troops in the Gulf War at the time. So yeah, I like the album a lot, and I enjoy it every time I listen to it. But I see everybody else's point,
Yeah, to me, it's just a little jarring, but it's really well made. So, all right, my number 10 is from 1997, their 10th album, Inamorata. which I think depending on what version you get, they have different covers and things like that. Or I think there's a version that's got a different cover of her, different photograph of her, and it's got like
inside,
a live
the
album.
inside of that, I think, is the cover.
Yeah, you might be right. I can see I got I don't know, there's all sorts of pictures in here. Cute shot of the two of them there. Yeah, so there's also some kind of cool stuff. And again, this is a later album, so this is 97. So this would be the second to last album that she did. Alison Cornell had some violin on the opening Only You, which I think is a really cool song. It's kind of rootsy, kind of southern rockerish type of thing. Really cool. River Love is really catchy. Great melodies on that. I like Strawberry Wine, upbeat, vibrant. It's got good hooks on it. At This Time is also a really good rocker. I think for me, there's a lot of material on here. This is one of those albums that's indicative of like the CD age, especially in the 90s, where bands and artists were like, all right, we got 70 minutes to fill up. We're going to fill up all 70 minutes, 12, 15 tracks, right? I find that what I like on here, I really like. But there's like a handful of songs that I just don't connect with at all. That just really don't go anywhere. But all in all, I think it's, for a late 90s album, and again, she's already at this point, like, almost 20 years into her career. I think it's solid, right? It's not strong start to finish for me, but I don't think it's bad. But what I like on here, I really like. So I would tell anybody watching this, who, if you've kind of slept on the more recent releases, there is some really good material on these albums. So definitely, don't miss out on an Emirata. I think it's pretty strong. It's just, again, I just don't connect with everything on there, but there is good material on there.
Yeah, I really like that album. Pete, I also have a Pat Benatar coloring book.
Wow. Okay.
It's so stupid. It's like somebody put this together with their printer like in an afternoon and started selling it on Amazon. So, but when I saw Pat Benatar coloring book $7.99, yeah, that's going in the basket.
I'm having a hard time like focusing on you here because I'm she just looks so dynamite on the
she looks good on that. Yeah, I almost put in the later 1991, or is it 2001 or 2000? No, it's not 91. I think it's 2001 DVD, but I went with the old school one.
And how entertaining is Myron, man? I mean,
Myron is so great, so underrated, man. That's what makes this a band. When you got a character like that that's been there for, what was he, like 5, 6 albums, 7 albums?
Yep.
Now you got a band. You got Neil, you got Myron, you got Roger Capps, who came from her first band, Coxswain's Army. Yeah. Number 9, I'm going with Gravity's Rainbow. Remember when we were buying up these shirts, Pete, left and right?
I know. Yep. I have a whole stack of them.
I know. I got a ton of them from all kinds of different bands.
And I get people always ask me, it's like, where'd you get that shirt? I'm like, I don't know. I ordered from some seller.
Yeah, I wear this to our concert, and people are like, or any of them are like, whoa, where'd you get those shirts? And by the way, she was 40 here. And to me, that might be the hottest she ever was with those 90s bangs. I am a sucker for 90s bangs, man. Bridget Fonda in the movie Singles. Oh, all that stuff. But, they got a little intro to the album. And then you hear the piano, dong, and things are going to start rocking. And Everybody Lay Down comes on. And it got played on the radio. And it made me so happy the first time I heard that song, because it fit in with everything that was going on rock radio at the time. You could hear Give It Away, Give It Away, Give It Away Now. Hear Everybody Lay Down right afterwards and go right into Jeremy by Pearl Jam. And it wouldn't sound that disjointed at all. It fit right in. And that's what made me so happy. Of course, 3 months later, it was off the radio, but it was there for a moment. And then you get the One Love syndrome from One Love from Wide Awake in Dreamland, where Somebody's Baby comes on. We're doing pop songs, goddamn it, too. So don't get too excited, everybody. But I love Somebody's Baby. It's about homeless people. He used to be somebody's baby. He used to matter. Which is really nice. Ties That Bind. This is another trend they do, Pete. Ever since, I would say, Diamond Field on Tropico, they always include this jagged R&B heavy percussion song. Is it pop, rock, R&B-ish? It's almost its own genre. is just very disjointed almost, but they all work. They all had to grow on me for a few months when I first bought the album, though. But you got Ties That Bind doing that. You and I, great melodies. Disconnected, it's really rocking. Crazy, all right. I'm not too crazy about Crazy, but I don't skip it either. Every time I fall back, such a sweet pop song. Great guitar work and textures from Neil in that. Sanctuary, it's such a great song. Rise Part 2 is interesting. There is no Rise Part 1. Rise Part 2 is interesting because it's just Neil with the acoustic guitar and Pat singing, and you think, oh, it's going to be like a little ballad. It's not. It's like this bluesy, I don't know if it's upbeat, but it's definitely not a ballad. Then Kingdom Key, it's not complex. It's not over the top. There's no big solos. It's not even a very long song, but somehow it still manages to sound epic to me. And Trading Down is just a flat out rocker with Neil tearing up the guitar. The only thing I wish it was like 5 or 6 minutes long and they just stretched out that solo just a little bit more. But they do that type of thing later coming up on a song I'm going to talk about. But I love this album. I was broke living in Fort Lauderdale, working at a record store with 2 dudes in a hotel. We lived in a hotel in Florida, broke as shit. I had no plans. I was 23 years old and just an idiot. I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, but I went out and bought this album. God damn it.
Of course you did.
Yes.
All right. Getting back to your number 11, my number 9 is Go from 2003. Yeah, I don't like this.
Try it too hard.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's she just doesn't look good there, and the back. I don't like this whole scream. It just doesn't make sense to me. The title track though is like one of the heaviest things, hardest rocking things that she had done in years. And I, big loud guitars, and I'm like, wow, okay, we're rocking out again. I kind of like that. I Won't also is pretty cranking. I like Have It All. I think she sounds fantastic on that. Girl is another good hard rocker. I like Tell Me. The problem is most of the other stuff I don't really like. And you hinted at it before. It's like, let's start off with a hard rocker, then a mellow track, then a hard rocker, then a mellow track. And I find on this album, I don't really enjoy the mellow songs all that much. And it's like, so for me, this is like a hit or miss album. What I like on it, I do like, but I find that they're trying to say, all right, we still can do the hard rock stuff, but we're going to do some ballads and soft tunes too. And I just don't find the soft songs all that memorable for me. I kind of like the rockers, but then I'm left wondering, do I like them because it goes back to a style that they used to do so well in the beginning, or do I really like these songs, right? I think I do like a handful of them quite a bit. Yeah, the production isn't great. It's kind of a mediocre album, but what I like on here, I do like. I could have ranked it lower. This kind of went all over the place at the bottom of my ranking. But again, there's some good stuff on here. So I remember like when I was telling Jamie that I was ordering these, you asked me like, oh, did you actually spend money on Go? Because you may or may
like
not.
25 bucks maybe or
yeah,
something.
it's like, no, I got it for pretty cheap. You're like, oh, okay, that's all right. So so it's decent. There's some good stuff on here. Like Jamie, I hope that they have something else planned. Again, not a terrible album to go out on, but again, they haven't given any indication that they're done playing music, right? Because they tour all the time,
and they've recorded a few songs in the last couple of years.
Yeah, they've done some singles and things like that. So, but I would love to hear another album that maybe hopefully tops this a little bit. But this is not terrible. I don't think it's pretty decent. So there's good stuff. That's my number 9.
All right. Number 8. I remember going to the Ross Park Mall in 1988 at 10:55 in the morning to get this at the record store right when they opened. Wide Awake in Dreamland. That's my wife. Man, she looks good in that picture. I don't know if it looks weird when a 53-year-old walks around with some chick on his. I just don't know. I've been doing it so long that I just don't know anymore.
I don't know and don't care, right?
I don't care either. No, I sure as shit don't. All Fired Up. Such a great song. When it was released, it really didn't do that well. But over time, somehow it became one of her signature songs. It just weird how that happens. She even did it at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't think it was on the broadcast. I think they cut it out. But I'm pretty sure she did it. One Love. There we go. One love is the light. I remember that was shocking to me the first time they did that to me. And then I got used to it. I'm like, all fired up. Okay, hit me with your best shot.
And
And it
then
was one love is the light. I'm like, mountaintops. I'm like, okay. But I mean, I love One Love. I even got the 12-inch single somewhere around here. And then Let's Stay Together. There it is, that jagged, heavy percussion. Myron Grombacher on that song with all his percussion is badass. I love that guy, and I love that they brought him back for the performance on Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That was really cool. And then you got the 3 great pop songs on here with Don't Walk Away. Oh, and I can't sing. Too Long a Soldier with this nice little message, and Cerebral Man. And about that song is the rum bum bum, ha, rum bum bum. Things like that get me. I don't need a blazing guitar solo. Give me rum bum bum, and that's all I need, Pete. That's it. Cool Zero, one of her best deep tracks, I think. As time goes on, there's songs like Cool Zero that just keep. I ranked maybe about 2 or 3 years ago. I ranked every one of her songs 1 to whatever it was, and Cool Zero was higher on that list than I expected it to be. And Lift Them On Up, another song, just keeps getting better and better for me. If you listen to Lift Them On Up and you're not moving in your seat or up, doing the dishes and doing a little jig, then you're dead. Stuff for the Little Children is okay. It's like Hell's for Children Part 2, but not nearly as good. And then Wide Awake in Dreamland is a good, solid rocker. But as you can see, I love this album, and it's coming in at number 8, but these have to be ranked, Pete. So there you have it.
Yeah. More on that album later. Number 8 for me, this was the one I think that I just did not know where to put. Because I like this album, but like part of me is like puzzled that I even like this album. And that's Tropico. Right there. All right, so I got this cool kind of 2-on-1 thing from
something about Tropico.
Yeah, something about Tropico. I do enjoy it. I mean, it's their 5th album, and it's their first kind of like non-hard rock album. This is not a hard rock album at all. But it's not like this kind of jazzy blues album, like a big band album, like True Love, right? It's just totally different. This is more and indicative of the times, right? 1984. So there's like new wave, there's pop. It's like, a lot of the,
Madonna's big, Cyndi Lauper's big.
Absolutely. So it's almost like they wanted to kind of play in that sphere there, right? So, right off the bat, you hear, lots of synths on the very vibrant Diamond Field, which I like quite a lot. We Belong is terrific, right? And that's a great hit single.
I can't deny that song.
Yeah, it's funny because when this came out in 1984, I liked We Belong, but then I remember, like, I think I had this on cassette, and I was kind of like, I don't know. I don't, at the time, 84, man, I'm listening to heavy stuff. And I was like, I don't really like a lot of this. It's like, so, I don't even know if I kept
You got shit from the heavy rockers from that album.
Yes, it's like, it's almost
even in like Cream Magazine, Hit Parader, they're giving her a little shit.
Yeah, it's like if it's not Heartbreaker or Hit Me With It, it's
Hell for Children.
You can't listen to Pat anymore, right? So, but We Belong is a great single. I think overall Pat is singing a little less forcefully on this album. There's a big difference if you listen to this and listen to all the albums that came before it. There's a big difference in her delivery, I think, but that was done intentionally, right? Painted Desert is the dreamy pop, again, the shift towards this sort of thing. Temporary Heroes is absolutely gorgeous song. Love in the Ice Age.
It's a little catchy. Gritty on that for a second.
Yeah.
Love in the Ice Age.
But it's a quirky, catchy song. I like that. The Ooh Ooh song is kind of new wave meets like 50s rock and roll.
And there's a whole Spanish version out there too, where she sings the whole thing in Spanish.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I haven't heard that. Outlaw Blues is kind of cool, and getting Neil some chance to play a little guitar on that one, because this is not a guitar album at all. Crazy World Like This is lots of hooks. You talk about the kind of the Caribbean rhythmic thing. You have that on Taking It Back, which I kind of dig. I mean, like literally when I was going through this exercise to do this, I was kind of, and revisiting this album so many years later, I was like, part of me really wants to dislike this album, like I kind of used to dislike it, almost 40 years ago. But it's actually quite enjoyable. But I think, when looking over all the other ones, I'm like, I think where it sits on my ranking is where it should sit. It's something I like. Again, maybe not an album of hers that I would reach for all that often, but there's good songsmanship on here, even though I kind of wish there was a little more oomph to it. It's a little poppy for me, but it's well done pop for me. So, but yeah, number 8 for me is Tropico.
All right. Number 7. I hope I have all these shirts in order. Inamorata.
Yeah, there you go.
Which is what I wore to the last time I saw her last summer. This
grown up Pat sitting on the couch, just kind of
just
held that up, and then there was a vision of her with the long hair rocking out, and I'm like, that's 2 different Pats there, right?
Yeah. I can tell you, I can look at a picture of her and tell you what year it was taken because of how her hairstyle is.
Of course, yeah.
Now this album only made it to 171 on Billboard, so times were changing. I looked it up on Wikipedia. There's only 2 sentences about the album, 2. So I'm like, for an album that's called In Love in Italian, it's not getting much love at all. It's kind of forgotten. But last time I saw her, she did 3 songs from the album. 3. Everybody was sitting down going, well, what's this shit? I was in heaven. Singing every word. They got Mick Mahan on bass on this one, and he's been there for 30 years almost. So he took over for, I think, Roger Capps, and he's been there ever since. I just wish he had more than 2 albums under his belt.
Yeah.
There's a lot of acoustic textures on this album, but that doesn't, in the long songs, like you said, 5-6 minutes long, but that doesn't stop these songs for me from just rocking out. For me, without the blazing guitars or heavy guitar sound, they're still rocking out. And Only You is a wonderful song, and I love the violin. I love the intro with the acoustic guitar, and then how Pat goes with his little sexy laugh. I'm all down for that. River of Love, which she did last summer, rocks without the screaming guitars and blazing solos. I Don't Want to Be Your Friend, I have an interesting history with. Oh God, get ready to cringe, but I made a mixtape back in 1997 for a girl I liked, and I put that song on it. I don't want to be your friend, I want to be your lover. Everybody together. Cringe.
Well, that's when you can say, well, it's not really about the lyrics, it's just I just like the song.
Right? Yeah, I don't know if she caught it or not. She still has it. I talked to her still. She still has that tape. So yeah, I remained on the friend zone. Strawberry Wine, wonderful song. Like you said, she did it last time. This is the thing, though. I was listening. We went to Dewey Beach that year, me and my buddy, and I put this album in. It was new, and at the time I remember saying, he's like, dude, you can go on Lilith Fair tour with this stuff. This is blending in with everything that's out there right now. I said, I know, and nobody's listening to it. Purgatory, another song she did last summer. I did not expect Purgatory. I thought that was so cool. Papa's Roses, it's sweet, but yeah, it's its little hiccup. But At This Time and In These Times, which are 2 songs I always mix up because they're on the same album, and At This Time, In These Times sound very familiar, but those are just rocking out to me, even though there's a lot of acoustic guitars and no like real solos in it, especially In These Times. It's like like almost 7 minutes long, and the last 3 minutes is just this. It almost goes into jam band territory, where I remember I still listen to it today, and I think what I thought back then. I didn't know they had that in them. I mean, I knew they wrote great songs, and Pat is great, and and Neil, the only reason she's with Neil is because he was older and I was too young. And what I mean to say is, I didn't know they had that in them where they could just extend a song like almost like Allman Brothers and just rock out. I used to play that for a buddy of mine in the around the time who liked Fish and the Grateful Dead. I said, listen to this. He goes, wow, I didn't know they could do that. I'm like, right? So yeah, I love this album very much. Papa's Roses is the one hiccup that puts it at number 7. Not that Papa's Roses is bad.
Solid record. Did you go to Peppers while you were in Dewey Beach?
Yes, I still have the hot sauce bottle that I bought there too. And you know who I went to Dewey Beach with? The girl I made the mixtape with. She met us there, and we got drunk, and we took a hot sauce from Peppers, went next door to the bar that was by this dock. It was right by the dock. And we got drunk and we ate food and the wings and we put that pepper sauce on there and we were shit-faced and singing "Drinking by the Dock of the Bay" all day.
For those who don't know what the hell,
too.
I'm sure there's people watching like, I don't know what the hell they're talking about Peppers. So there is this famous hot sauce store in Dewey Beach, Delaware.
Is it still there?
I don't know. I've never been there, but I used to order because they had a mail order service. I used to order hot sauce from them all the time. I would order like 20 bottles of hot sauce at a time, all sorts of different stuff. I spent in the 90s, man. I spent so much money on Pepper's website. I think they're still there. They have the store is like, I've only seen pictures. I've never been there, but they've got massive amounts of hot sauce, like anything and everything you could possibly imagine. So I used them for years and years and years. And so when you mentioned Dewey Beach, I'm like, oh, and I know you like hot sauce, right? So I was like, I wonder if he went there. So that's
we went there for our honeymoon, and it was there right next to the bottle and cork.
Nice. So. Yeah, I got to get there one of these days if it's still there. Yeah, I man, it's like it seems like the days of like hot sauce stores are gone. There used to be hot sauce stores in every town back, 20 years ago. Now it's like there's none around here.
We had one here. We used to have a couple here, K-Johns, called K-Johns. Go on their website, CAJOHON, like John and K in front of it. Yeah. But they moved somewhere. But you could still get their stuff here though. But okay, we stray.
We've deviated. Yeah, we've deviated.
We'll do a hot sauce episode one day.
I get it. We're gonna have to, right? I did want to mention though, because you were talking about like the acoustic stuff and going to see her or them and them playing songs that like the audience doesn't know, newer tracks and things. And I only saw them once. And it was on the tour they did where they opened for REO Speedwagon. I'm going to say it was like 2007 or 8 or 9, something like that. And I remember like they did play a bunch of songs that I did not know. And then they played this whole lengthy like acoustic duet between the two of them, which completely took me out of it. Because the beginning of the show was great. They played like a lot of popular songs, and it was pretty rocking and upbeat. And then the whole thing just ground to a halt. And then I think the last song or two they played, they brought the full band out again. So I would like to see like them again, where it's less of that. I'm not an acoustic set type of guy. That's not me. So but yeah, that's the only time I saw it. So I'd like to go at least.
I wonder I don't think I saw that tour.
I'm gonna have to
come to a halt for me, Pete.
No, I'm sure, but for me, I was kind of like I was expecting a little. I was expecting something different. I was kind of like first time seeing Pat Benatar and Neil, right. But it was cool. I mean, but I'd like to go see them again. Anyway, I've sidetracked. All right, my number. Where are we at? 7, right? I'm going to go with Gravity's Rainbow, number 7. I dig this album. 9th album, last for Chrysalis Records. What I like about this, back to all original material, back to rock, okay? Because I think for a while they were doing lots of covers and stuff, which is fine. But Everybody Lay Down, terrific, groovy hard rock song. Pat still singing up a storm. Ties That Bind, a little bluesy, but I still like it. You and I, it's kind of, again, a little blues feel, but kind of moody. Disconnected, easily my favorite song on here. I really dig that a lot. Crazy is also excellent. I like Sanctuary. It's got great hooks on that. Trading Down is a lot of fun. Again, another one of those albums where a lot of material, but what I like about this is that most of them are in the 3 to 4 minute range, and the album kind of moves along pretty good. And it's a shame that this album was kind of largely ignored. But I think what's good on here is really, really good. Like you mentioned, there's some excellent material on here, and she looks adorable on the cover. So yeah, that's my number 7.
Yes. Number 6, I am going with 7 the hard way. This is not my tour shirt, but I had a tour shirt in 1986. And this was on the front of it. This is some reproduction thing I got on a sweatshirt. And look, in 1986, her tour shirt, you don't know who that is. You go, what band is that? That's what you would ask, because it looks like a band. She's got her whole band on there.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is really cool. You know, Pat and Neil hate the album. They're not big fans of it. Critics don't like it that much. There's some fans that don't like it, but I absolutely love it. Sex is a Weapon. It didn't do that great for her. You saw chinks in the armor with her popularity when Sex is a Weapon came out. Got a lot of play on MTV because it was kind of a crazy MTV 80s like video, but on the radio didn't get played too much. And La Belle Age, which I love that song so much.
Amazing.
It was the second single in video. All right, so my internet went out again, guys. But I was talking about La Belle Age. Did you get me talking about Richard Belzer?
No.
Oh, okay. There are 2 different versions of the video on MTV. There's one where he is talking, because they're reenacting her times at the Catch a Rising Star club, where she played with a lot of comedians and hung out with like Robin Williams, and Richard Belzer was one of them. So they got him to come in and do the video, and he talks a lot over the song. You know, this hard-boiled guy who, you know, got my broad here, and, you know, a comedian, I got to get this job done. And then they did a second one where he doesn't talk over the music as much. But she looks fantastic in the video. She's got the big loopy earrings. If there's 2 things I'm a sucker for, it's 90s bangs and big loopy earrings. In fact, the first thing I ever said to my wife, the very first sentence, I went up to her in a bar and said, I like your big loopy earrings. So you could put those things on a pig with some lipstick, and I go, it could be worse.
Best come on ever, right? I love your big loopy earrings.
Yes, that was the best. That was my first thing I ever said. I don't know if it was the best thing I could have said, but well, hey, she came home with me. Walking in the Underground. I love the tenor sax. Is it a tenor sax? Whatever they play in like film noir, that saxophone where, you know, it's raining outside, I'm leaning up against a post.
Probably a tenor. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, that's the kind of sax you hear right in the beginning, and it's slow. It's not rocking, but it's beautiful. Big Life, big pounding drums. Love it. Red Vision, there's your heavy percussion, jarring R&B-ish song they always throw on there. Kick-ass version of 7 Rooms of Gloom, the Four Tops cover. Love 7 Rooms of Gloom. I see a house. Oh, she likes to sing over herself quite a bit, all the time. Very little does she have backup singers. She's always her own backup singer.
Yeah.
Run Between the Raindrops is solid. Invincible. Here's the thing with Invincible that a lot of people don't get. But there was an issue with this for me being on here, because it was released maybe about 5 months earlier, 6 months earlier, from the Legend of Billie Jean soundtrack, which there is no actual soundtrack to that movie, but it's released because that movie was out and it was a hit, and then it went off the charts. And then you got this album that comes out later, and that song's on there. It feels tacked on a little bit, but as time goes on, it doesn't feel tacked on anymore. It feels like it's part of the album. But that was an issue at first. It felt like you're getting a real short album with Invincible thrown on. And The Art of Letting Go is just it's just an awesome song. It's a top tier song for me. That doesn't mean it's the most hard rocking. It just means the song itself is just effing great. So yeah, I love that you haven't brought it up yet, which means you're going to give it some love, which is awesome.
More on that later.
Because you love Invincible.
Yeah, I do love Invincible. Yes. We'll get to that in a little bit. All right. So my number 6 is Wide Awake in Dreamland, 8th album.
Awake.
All Fired Up is amazing. I love All Fired Up. I mean,
it's a Rocky type song.
Oh yeah. I mean,
like it wants you to start running, you know, or work out or something.
Yeah, I mean the vocals and the chorus are just, she just sounds great on it. I mean the guitar work is just gritty and just absolutely blazing. I really like it a lot. I love this.
Yes, when I first saw that, when I bought it, I'm like, yes,
it's awesome. That's
This
like,
is gonna rock. And then I
yeah.
hear "One Love is the Light."
I mean, yeah,
But I love One Love. I love.
One Log song of the Line. I mean, that's kind of like, bluesy or kind of pop. Let's Stay Together. I mean, totally get you moving. It's got great grooves to it. Yeah, it's really good. Too Long a Soldier, I think, has a great lyrical message. So again, this is 88, right? So we're approaching that time of all the craziness going on in the world. So I think that's really cool. Cool Zero also rocks hard. Lift 'Em On Up is excellent. I like the title track quite a bit. I mean, not every track on here is a complete winner, but this is really strong, I think. And it just kind of continues on them doing what they do best. So I really like this a lot. It's a really well produced album as well. So yeah, that's my number 6. Good album, Wide Awake in Dreamland. Here we are, the top 5 now. All righty.
Crimes of Passion. She when this album came out, they did a promotion where it was like this, and they airbrushed away the straps and made her look topless, and she got pissed as a motherfucker.
No doubt, yeah.
You can read that in interviews and in her book. But this was the second album I ever got by her. I Get Nervous was the first one I bought, and then this one I traded. God, I was 13, and I traded my buddy's buddy. I traded him Fair Warning by Van Halen for it. I got Fair Warning right afterwards back, when I bought it myself, but I'll never forget that. And I actually I remember going down in my buddy's basement into his bedroom that he shared with his other brothers and listening to it right away. And I actually heard side 2 first before I heard side 1. It has and here's my 3 copies and my endless amount of cassettes of it and CDs. Treat Me Right comes on, down. It comes on like gangbusters right away. Sounds great. You Better Run, the Young Rascals song, but it's a Pat song to me. It's never a Young. I have to be reminded that it's a cover all the time. Never Want to Leave You. Here's, now I'm splitting hairs with these albums, Pete. And this song is just a little bit repetitive. Like she says, never want to leave you, maybe too many times. So that's where we're at. When you say one line too many times, you lose a point. That's how the hairs are. But it also has Hit Me With Your Best Shot, which is her Sweet Home Alabama, her You Shook Me All Night Long, where, I might be at the grocery store and I hear it. I'm like, yes, Pat. But deep down, it's like, yeah, I've heard it a bazillion times. I'm actually glad she stopped singing it. As of now, anyway. She'll probably bring it back, but I'm glad she stopped singing it. Make room in that set list for something better. She hates singing it. She's always hated singing it. She says live she hates singing it. And she used to bring up other people from the crowd to sing it for her. So I think she just came up with that excuse will work why I won't sing it.
Why not? Hey, if the artist doesn't, great.
Right. If she's not into it, then I don't want to hear it. But then you got,
there's going to be fans like, well, she doesn't sing that song,
I want
I'm not
to
going,
hear
right?
the hits.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I don't know what this Purgatory is all about, this song or Sanctuary, but go home and listen to your Best Shots, Greatest Hits album.
Yeah.
It's got Hell Is for Children, which, I mean, Neil keeps saying that there's a long, like 8-minute version out there, and one of these days I need to release it. Okay. Do it. All you got to do is get it, put it on the internet. It's real easy these days. I bet you it kicks ass, though. It's going to be like a Greengrass and High Tides Freebird kind of thing, because when you do listen to it in your brain, it does feel like a 6 or 7 minute song, but it's actually not. It's pretty short. My 8th grade teacher told me one time, I used to like her, and then I heard that Hell Is for Children, and I just thought that was awful. And here's an 8th grader telling my teacher what it's about. Catholic grade schools, Pete.
Yeah.
Little Paradise, the first song I ever heard on it. I'm trying to be short on these albums, and it's almost impossible, Pete. I'm Dan Browning this whole fucking thing. And I don't give a shit. You want to fast forward through me? I don't give a shit. I've been waiting 40 years to talk about these albums to people, maybe, I don't know, a few thousand people. And God damn it, I'm living in the moment.
There you go. It's all right. We're in no rush.
Little Paradise. I remember sitting there listening to it for the first time in my buddy's bedroom in the basement, and he had a dresser drawer with the little things that you pull, you know, from the dresser, the little design. And I remember sitting there looking at the little design going, that kind of looks like an island. It looks like a little paradise. And as a 13-year-old, I remember thinking, why do I have a feeling this image is going to come into my mind for the rest of my life when I hear this song? And here we are, I'm 53, 40 years later, and it's still coming into my mind.
See that?
Weird how things like that happen. I'm gonna follow you, written by Billy Steinberg, who also wrote Like a Virgin, True Colors, Eternal Flame by the Bangles, So Emotional by Whitney Houston, and Hearts Alone. So the dude has some hits under his belt and memorable songs, and I love that song. Kate Bush cover, Wuthering Heights is great. Prisoner of Love is just a solid rocker. Then Out of Touch, love the opening. Always loved the opening since I was a kid. I've seen your picture on the paper in the front page of magazines. I pull the trigger right at you on billboards and movie screens. Love it. Love it.
I love your country version there. They're very, very well done.
I don't know. Was that country?
It's okay.
I don't know. It's just a dude who can't sing trying to sing. That's all it is.
There you go. And having fun doing it. That's all that matters. That's all. Yeah, that's more about that later. That was actually the first Pat Benatar album I ever bought when it first came out. And my number 5 is the second Pat Benatar album I bought, which I bought right after I bought the first one because I kind of went backwards. And this is one that I thought would be higher on this list, but actually in revisiting all of these, it's probably right where it needs to be, and that's In the Heat of the Night from 1975, the debut. All right. There's some stuff on here I love a lot. There's some issues I have with this album, which I think I didn't.
7 covers?
Huh?
7 covers?
Yeah.
7 cover songs is an issue?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I mean, you know what's really bizarre? Heartbreaker is just a killer song, right? It's killer hard rock. I remember the first time I heard Heartbreaker, I was like, yes, man, this is great. Do you know, I mean, what a way to introduce yourself to the world, the first song on your debut album, right?
But it was the 3rd single.
Yeah,
Who was behind that?
Yeah, go figure. Do you know that I didn't know till decades later that was a cover song? No, I had no idea.
Me neither, Pete. I didn't know until maybe 10, 15 years ago because of the internet.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? I've never been a fan of John Cougar's I Need a Lover, but I think she does it justice. I think that's pretty well done. In the Heat of the Night is great. I mean, it's so sultry and just, again, another cover though, right? I don't think I ever heard the original.
Smokey, some band called Smokey.
Smokey, I don't know anything about Smokey.
There's 2 Smokey songs on here.
Yes, there are. Yep. And they're both well done. One of the few original songs on here, My Clone Sleeps Alone, is weird because it's kind of like new wavy, it's kind of hard rockish, but it's got this kind of new wave feel. I kind of dig that. It's still different. We Live for Love is another original song. Neil wrote that. I kind of like that, right? Really good vocal.
I caught this pick at a concert after he played it.
Oh, very cool. So it's amazing you remember that. They do a cover of Rated X by Nick Gilder. That's okay. They do Don't Let It Show from Alan Parsons Project. That's okay. What is really okay, however, is their cover.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. I mean,
like a fool.
Cranks. Absolutely cranks. So that's great. And then you got the pop rock So Sincere, which is okay. Overall, I mean, there's some fun stuff on here. There's way too many covers, but a couple of them are done really, really well. For me, this is absolutely elevated for 3 songs. Heartbreaker, We Live for Love, and No You Don't, and maybe throw the title track in there as well. And to me, those are so good that it has to force this album to rank as high as it does. Because I was even going to put this lower, which I never would have said, 30, 40 years ago. But yeah, number 5 is still really good. So yeah, it's a fun album. I just wish there was a little more original material, but debut album, I get it. But what's good on here is really, really good. So.
My 4.
There you go.
I thought it was going to be number 2 when I started this out.
That's kind of where I thought it was going to be as well. So
I started judging these albums, not with this, but more with this when I was listening to them. What made me feel emotional? And that's where these are coming in like that. As you said, Heartbreaker, great. Weird that it was the third single. I don't know how that's not the first. How you don't announce yourself with Heartbreaker on the radio at first. I think they released if you think you know how to love me as before.
I don't even remember.
Yeah, that might have been before that one. But yeah, I mean, it didn't sound like, 1979. It sure didn't sound like Blondie. It didn't sound like Kate Bush. It was like, wow, this is a chick rocking this hard at the time. I guess maybe people were thinking that.
My clone Sleeps Alone, I think, sounds the most like kind of like the Blondie type of sound.
Yeah, I like its quirky lyrics too, like sci-fi-ish, because Neil's a sci-fi fan. He likes the old school sci-fi shit. I Need a Lover. I do like the Mellencamp version. I like the long opening on the Mellencamp version. This doesn't have it, which I think you don't need to do in a cover. I wish they would have done a duet sometime in the last 40 some years, whether it's live or something. If they toured together, I don't think they ever toured together. I just wish I would have got that duet. If you think you know I Love Me, Smokey cover. Who's Smokey? I don't fucking know. But it's great. In the Heat of the Night, you said it's sultry. And as a 13-year-old listening to this, where she's singing, you ain't seen nothing yet, and what you see you'll never forget. What am I gonna see? In the heat of the night, what am I gonna see? My clone Sleeps. Well, We Live for Love is my wife's favorite song by Pat Benatar. She gets jealous at times because she thinks I'd leave her. I actually did leave her for Pat Benatar one time at the Vegas show. I went running to the front row and left her behind. Did I ever tell you that story?
No.
Where I was talking to a couple of young guys, ushers, and they were a couple black guys in their 20s. They didn't know Pat Benatar at all. So I'm like, you're gonna love it. I'm Vegas at night, fucking wasted. You're gonna love it. You're gonna talk to your ear off. And I'm singing, Hit Me With Your Best Shot, and I'm singing it. So I have my Penguins hat on, and we're like, I don't know, 17 rows back, and I'm going to run to the front. So I go to the front, and then I get a tap on the shoulder after one song. It's one of those dudes, who recognize me because I had to talk their ear off. And they're like, come on back to your seat, man. Come on back. So I'm back at the seat, and I told my wife, I'm like, those dudes know the white guy in the Penguins hat. They don't know the bald white guy. And I went running up there without my hat on, and was up there the whole time.
You were fine.
Yeah, shook her hand. I shook her hand. And I shook Neil's hand. I never met her. She almost paid to do it once, almost, and I didn't do it. I do have dreams I've had dreams for 40 years where we're friends, even today as a 53-year-old. And I wake up and I go, fuck. And I'm not even getting to the worst parts of what I might say later. Rate it. Don't worry, it doesn't get that weird. Don't let it show when it's not, it doesn't get weird. Trust me. What's this guy doing when he's listening to Pat? No, I'm not doing anything weird. Stop it. Get your mind out of the gutter. Don't let it show when I hear it. And then when I hear the Alan Parsons Project version, I'm like, I think this sounds better when a chick sings it. I don't even like the Alan Parsons version because I heard it after her version.
Oh, see, I heard
this needs to be sung by a female in my ears. No, you don't have to treat me like a fool. Yeah, it's and I didn't know it was a Sweet cover for the longest time. So I always wondered, why is she using the word bloody? Why, you don't have to be so bloody cool. Because some Brits,
a
couple of Brits wrote it.
Yeah.
And So Sincere is very quirky and cool in its quirkiness, and it kind of adds a little spice to the whole album. Yeah, but it does have 7 covers, even if you didn't know they were covers. Once you kind of know they're covers, you're like, do you need that many covers? So, but I mean, I love that. If I made a top 20 albums of all time, it's going to be in there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, very cool. All right. Number 4 for me is Get Nervous. 4th album. Cool cover. I remember when this came out. I'm like, oh, look at that. That's kind of fun.
And that's Myron Grombacher's kid on her pin.
Oh, is it really? Yeah.
I think I think they're godparents to him.
Gotcha.
Or her.
I did not know that. And then if you look at the inside, Right. Yeah, I mean, Shadows of the Night is a great song. Another cool single. Looking for a Stranger is quirky, it rocks. Again, you got that kind of like blend of like hard rock and new wave, which we saw them do a little bit beforehand on Anxiety, Get Nervous, which is kind of the title track. That's a really cool song. Fight It Out is really good. Sizzling guitar solo from Neil on that. The Victim is another great song. Little Too Late, I love. That's so catchy. That's a lot of fun. That was all over the radio back in the day. Really like that a lot.
I love her hair in that video when it's up a little bit in the back.
Yep.
With the jet black jacket.
What else we got here? I'll Do It is kind of moody, but a great vocal on that. I Want Out. To me, I Want Out like really wants to rock, but there's like too many synths on that song and not enough guitar. It's like I almost wish they would have kind of remixed that and to punch up the guitar a little bit, because it's a really forceful song. It's really.
I wonder if I've ever heard it live. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, the underrated song on this album is Tell It to Her. I really, really like that a lot.
Could have been a single.
Yeah, it has a great chorus. One of the things that I've written in my notes, like throughout all these albums, is how good, especially on the first half of the catalog, is how great the choruses are. There's just like one after another. I can't speak highly enough of Tell It to Her. I think it's just absolutely great. Silent Partner is cool, right? And I think throughout this whole album, Pat just sounds really good. And the band, they were pretty big at the time. So I think they sound confident. There's great songwriting on here. It's produced well, and there's a nice blend of styles and things. So I think an excellent album, and that's my number 4. Get Nervous.
Precious Time. Number 3. Now we're in the heavy hitters. It starts off with probably the most important song ever in my life, Promises in the Dark. I've said this story many times to people. I was sitting in the back seat of my dad's car when he was driving, and he's going through the stations, the memory things, those big black buttons where it would go. And he came across one song, and it was Promises in the Dark, and he went past it, of course. And I said, go back to that song. And he went back to it, and I just sat there, and the world opened up with that song. I saw the doorway, and I walked through it. And I mean, the piano notes, the unsung hero in this song is the piano. And this is what it reminds me of. It's like the tip of an icicle touching your skin on a hot summer day. Ding, 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 every time that note hits. What the image I get. And her voice slides into the song, and it's not quite a blanket that surrounds me, but it's more like the voice comes in, and it's more like a force field. It's a glowing, warm force field that makes me feel, when I was a kid, obviously, safe from all the shit in the world. And even though I was listening to this song on like a shitty little one speaker boombox, the beginning of the song sounded like Atmos surround sound to me. There was just something, nobody even invented Atmos surround sound yet. And that's how it just sounded to me, like it was all around me. And then the song kicks in and starts rocking, and it sounds exactly to me how a rock song should sound. Powerful, epic, driving with textures, and then that piano. And it has a little guitar solo that tells a mini story within the song itself. And Pat sounds commanding, and her voice has attitude, and her voice is representing everything I would later come to like and be kind of attracted to in women throughout my adulthood. So sitting in the back seat of my dad's car, not only is it kind of, making me see the light and determining what I like in music, but it's kind of determining what I like in women all at the same time within that 3 minutes at that moment. And then you got, this is like my second favorite song of all time, behind Southern Cross by Carter Stills Nash, R.I.P. David Crosby. Then you get the 1, 2, 3, 4 part, which is just, this part alone makes me never get sick of the song, because I went decades with trying to, she says promises in the, and then I try to hit the one when Neil hits the one. And sometimes I'm half a second too late. Sometimes I'm a half a second too early. And then it's a game within the song itself of trying to do that. I'm better at it now. After a bazillion listens, I'm better at it. But this song is just everything to me. It's just everything. And then Fire and Ice comes on, and it's got great bottom end and Roger Cap's bass just acting as the glue to keep the whole song together. And then Paul Revere and the Raiders cover Just Like Me, but it's not a cover to me. It's just a Pat song. Precious Time. I'm keeping my eye to see if you freeze, to know if I got ejected again. Because I don't want to say this shit twice.
There you go.
Precious Time. They've never done a prog song before, but this comes as close as they ever got. I think it's the most complex guitar work Neil has ever done. I don't play guitar, but you tell me. It just feels very complex. It's 6 minutes long, and it's actually a cool video. He on MTV, it was like in the sand time hourglass thing, and he was playing with the sand coming down. Take it any way you want it. Evil genius, hard to believe, all embedded into my head. I know every word, every guitar part, every nuance of these songs. Then Helter Skelter, one of her, the Beatles cover, one of her most hard-rocking songs. She did it last summer because it was Paul McCartney's birthday when I saw her. So they busted out Helter Skelter, and I thought that was really cool. So yeah, very important album to the history of me. But it's still number 3.
More on that later. Number 3 for me, 7 The Hard Way.
Wow, Pete, that is impressive.
Yeah.
Because of Invincible alone.
Yeah, well, there's a lot on here I like. That's could be my favorite Pat Benatar song. 6th album, I think this brings her and the band back into playing hard rock stuff, which I think was kind of cool. I love Sex as a Weapon. I mean, that's great. Big metallic guitars, great chorus. It's a driving rocker. I don't care if people don't like the lyrics or whatnot. I still think it's great. Le Bel Age is terrific. Just absolutely swirling and just kind of intoxicating. Just love it. And another absolutely standout chorus. So good. I like the sax on the kind of poppy Walking in the Underground. I think Big Life is great with some great guitars from Neil. I love the nasty hard rocker Red Vision, which I think, lets Neil completely unleash some guitar thunder, which is always well.
Oh yeah, he does play well on that.
Yeah, he does. I like Seven Rooms of Gloom. That's kind of bouncy, kind of poppy, right? And for me, Invincible is absolutely unforgettable. In fact, when I was listening to these albums again the other day, and I got to this one, Invincible came on, and I played it like 3 times in a row. I just can't get enough of it. Like, I absolutely love that song. And I really like The Art of Letting Go. I think it's just a really strong album, and I'm like amazed that like some people don't like this album, because I think it's absolutely
including them. Yeah, they call it 7 the hard way because it was hard to make in their 7th album.
Yeah, weird. I don't know. I think it's completely enjoyable and a lot of fun.
Yeah. And, it doesn't sound like it was hard to make. It sounds like it was easy for them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't there.
And then on this BGO release, which of course has this and Tropico at the end of the CD, I guess they had a little extra space, so they tacked on Love Is a Battlefield.
Oh, look at that. I was just going
on the live album. Yeah,
I was just going to bring that up. If people are like, why aren't they talking about Love Is a Battlefield? It's because it's an extra track on Live from Earth along with Lipstick Lies. Yep. That's why. But Pete, I used to buy anything and I still do, anything and everything she was on. Cruzados came out. Cruzados, After Dark. They had Better Lies was their hit. She sang backup on it. Got to get it because she sang backup. She sang one line on the Sun City album. Got to get it. She has one song, Here's My Heart on Metropolis, which is the old school movie colorized with Giorgio Moroder, the disco guy. He got like Freddie Mercury and Bonnie Tyler and Pat Benatar to do music to it. And it's the movie, they turned the movie into an MTV video. But I mean, she's got Sometimes the Good Guys Finish Last on the Secret of My Success soundtrack. She's got odds and ends. Marlo Thomas did a CD for kids, and she did a song called Jimmy Says, which means Jimmy says do this, don't do that, don't give in to peer pressure is the song. Got that. Anything. She did a fucking Jello commercial called Passion, the song for the Jello commercial, and I had to download that one to get that one. So yeah, there's everything out there, peppered throughout the world of rock and roll, and I have it all.
True fan, true fan.
Yes, and I should say, I got so much shit here. I'm going to show just two things real quick at the end. But my number 2, I didn't see this coming until I listened to them all and started making notes. I did not realize how much this album means to me. Tropico. And the thing is now, and I was debating after I made my notes, how much do I share of myself with a few thousand people and a few hundred haters? I mean, I'm going to put myself out there for strangers and, my haters. I believe for positive or negative, there's 50 people that think that. So the 2 negative comments I get normally, that's about 100 people. So do I put myself out there? And the answer is fuck it. I don't give a shit. I kept going to the record store when this album was coming out. I remember, is it out yet? Is it out yet? And the dude was always like, no, it's not out yet. Come back next. I went week after week. And when it finally came out, God, because it was the first full studio album I bought on the day of the release. I bought Get Nervous within a year of its release, but this was the first one. I got Live from Earth, but that's live. It doesn't count. Diamond Field. That's the beginning of that R&B-ish type jarring thing. We Belong. We've all heard it. We all know it. I don't think many people hate it. And then Painted Desert, that was the nail in the coffin for the hard rock guys. She is done with hard rock, huh? And then but this album is much more than just the songs. It's a very personal album to me. And I didn't realize how personal it was until the last week. It's an album I've listened to 1,000 times, and I'm pretty sure I was alone every single time. It's not like we were partying back in the days in high school and people were playing Guns N' Roses and Def Leppard. And I'm like, how about a little Tropico? I think Tropico will get this party started, guys. What do you think? And it's not like I was driving, to the mall or with my buddy and let's put in a little Tropico on the way to the mall. No, it's just not going to work out. So I'm pretty, you did a Marillion show with Stephen Reed 2 years ago, and his favorite Marillion album, one I've never heard, Hollow something. Do you know what album I'm talking about?
Hollow.
It has a face on the cover.
Oh, Brave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe the song on there was called Hollow. Well, he said he never listened to the album with anybody else ever. And I remember that from 2 years ago because it reminded me of this album. So when you do that, it becomes a very intimate experience because 40 years of listening to an album alone, so when you finally do listen to it with someone, which I'd never done, I would feel like I'm exposing myself, a part of me, to someone, kind of like what I'm doing now. But here's the thing. In the 80s and early 90s, I'm not going to lie, and this is probably part of this album, I wasn't the biggest ladies man. I was struggling, and I look at pictures of me back then. I'm like, I see why. I was trying to figure shit out. I was a late bloomer. It's not like I blossomed into the biggest flower ever, but I bloomed a little late. So I had to rely, on other things like porn. There was no porn back then, but I had to rely on other things to put my emotions into. There were baskets that you could put your emotions into, family, girlfriend. I didn't have the girlfriend basket, but I had this album. And I'm not saying that, it's an unconventional basket to put your emotions to. And I'm not saying this album was like a girlfriend of mine, but it was a crutch to get me through, coming home and being the third wheel all night, or the phone call I got from my buddies at the prom. Hey, your friends from the prom are on the phone, Jamie. My parents. Do you want to talk to them? Fuck, let me go listen to some motherfucking Tropico. So it was a cushion for the hits, you know, the punches that life gives you back then as a teenager, you know, and even into my early 20s. So that's how I kind of, without even realizing it, kind of viewed it. And as you get older, you get different kind of problems, you know, adulthood comes, different problems. Life throws you different kind of punches, but the cushion is still the same. You know, you still rely on the same cushion for different problems. So yeah, this is way beyond just the music. I don't want to just talk about the music with this because it goes way beyond that. And you talk about how she sings softer on there. I think that helps with the cushion part, you know, because cushions are soft, Pete.
That is true. Yep. That is
So
true. We like them.
yeah, very important album to me. I was shocked that I felt that way listening to it again the other day, making notes. So yeah, number 2 is Tropico.
All these years later, right? Yeah.
All these years later, I finally, you know, like I said, it was like self-therapy when I was listening to these.
So, kind of like you, I was a bit surprised by where some of these albums ended up for me. My number 2, I going in fully expected to be my number 1, and then when it wasn't, I was kind of really surprised because I often talk about how sometimes that first album you heard by a band or artist, generally speaking, over time continues to be your favorite because you have all that history with it. So I fully expected Crime of Passion to be number 1, and it's actually my number.
I did too.
Yeah, I going in fact, this is what I did. This is how sure I was that that's where it was going to be. Generally speaking, when I do these ranking shows, I put down on my document, I put down all the album titles and the year they were produced. And then if off the bat, there's generally a couple that I know exactly where they're going to fall in the ranking, right? So right off the bat, I put this at number 1, and I put In the Heat of the Night at number 2. Because I was like, that's exactly where they're going to be. I know because I have the most history with the both of them. And then as I started listening to all these albums over and over again, I'm kind of like, yeah, it's got to move out of the number 1 spot. And In the Heat of the Night dropped down even more, right? But this is still great. I mean, this is the second album. This is the first one I bought. Probably her hardest rocking album overall. I think I like the fact that there's more originals on here as opposed to the first album. I mean, Treat Me Right is killer. The vocals are great. The guitar work is so good. You Better Run, to me, again, I for years I didn't know it was a cover of a Young Rascals song. And you know what? I don't even care. This is the
second video to ever be played on MTV.
Yeah, which is really cool. I mean, You Better Run is near heavy metal, right? That's why at the time, I think there were a couple songs on this album at the time, and Heartbreaker, that was so heavy that a lot of people were calling Pat Benatar like the new queen of heavy metal at the time, right? Even though not really at all. But man, I mean, You Better Run has just some molten guitar playing and soloing from Neil. It's just so good. Never Want to Leave You is great. Hit Me With Your Best Shot is a classic rock radio staple. I never need to hear it again, but I loved it back in the day. Hell Is for Children arguably is their greatest song. You know, I can say how much I love Invincible, and I think Invincible is loads of fun. But you know, when you come right down to it, I mean, Hell Is for Children is just absolutely brilliant. It's moody, it's atmospheric, it's poignant, and it's heavy, right? It's got everything all, you know, wrapped up to one. What's interesting, when I bought this album back in the day, this to me has had like the moving pictures syndrome. We all listened to side 1 all the time, and we ignored side 2. And then years later, you realize how strong side 2 actually is as well. It loses a little bit steam. It's not quite as strong as side 1, but it's still really, really good. Little Paradise is great. I'm Gonna Follow You has a great chorus. It's kind of sexy, right? You know, I'm not a big Kate Bush fan, so Wuthering Heights is kind of lost on me. But Prisoner of Love is really catchy. And I think Out of Touch has a great riff and a really memorable chorus. Like I said, this was my number 1 going in. It makes it to number 2. Because I think my number 1, I absolutely love start to finish and didn't realize how much I loved it back in the day till I revisited all these years later. So back to you for number 1. I know what your number 1 is.
Oh yeah, it's my number 1 favorite album of all time. And first of all, I got all her singles on 45, every single one of them, even the obscure ones like True Love from the Blues album. Got all her cassette singles. See, I'm like Ralph when he was talking about King Kong. Before I get to number 1, my prized possessions. Her first album from 1974 with Coxswain's Army, and you can see Roger Capps. He's one of these guys here. This album you could only buy in Virginia at their shows, so it's not the easiest thing to find. When I was, a teenager, 20s, 30s, I thought I would never own this because, it was hard to find stuff on the internet. Now, if you got about $150 in Discogs account, you can eventually get one, maybe even on eBay. This one has the shrink wrap on it, and it's pretty much near mint, almost. But she does like Respect by
Is it any good? I've never heard. Is it any good? I've never heard
it. It's 1974, and I think she might be working at a bank at the time as well. But it's her version of, she's still trying to figure out her voice and things. It's 74, so 5 years before her first album.
Yeah.
Her version of Respect is okay. You could go out on YouTube and listen to it. And then, even as Discogs and eBay came out and about, the guy Coxswain, I forget his first name, took her aside, and they produced one single called Day Gig, and you could only buy it in the Richmond, Virginia area. And what I hear is 200 were made. She hated it, because it sounds a little, I don't know. I'm not going to say Judy Garland. If Judy Garland sang an opening to a 70s cop show, it's like a SWAT theme. If Judy Garland sang over it, it would kind of sound like that. And she destroyed like half of them. So if that is true, and there's only 100 left, there was only 100 in the mid 70s. How many exist now? I don't know, but I got one.
There you go.
And it is, when I bought this, Pete, the thing is, you go on Discog and you put on a want list, and then they email you when something pops up on your want list. And I put it on my want list. Why not? It's never going to come up. Then one day, I'm sitting in my house in the other room from my wife, and she hears, "Oh my effing God." It's on my want list. Never sold on disc. How long has Discogs been around? It's never sold on Discogs. I see it for $250 plus $75 shipping. I was shaking as I bought it because I thought someone was going to beat me to it, because I think everybody in the world wants it as much as me. But I mean, you get the right Pat Benatar fan who has it on their want list in Albuquerque, and it's gone. Yep. I got it the day it was. There's a video of me on YouTube. I taped me before I was like into all this. I just taped me getting it and opening it, and yeah, I don't play it. It's not on YouTube if you want to hear it. It just stays in a frame. Every once in a while, I'll bust it out and play it. But it sounds, not a lot of surface noise on that. And if that thing was Beatles or Elvis, oh my God, it's priceless to me, because if I ever lost it, you don't go back on eBay or Amazon and get a new one.
Yeah, you're not going to find it
forever.
Yeah.
So yes, my number one has always been Get Nervous. If Promises in the Dark was the doorway that Dorothy walked through to get to Oz, this was the colorful world on the other side. And, again, as a teenage kid, Shadows in the Night comes on, and right away you hear that voice. It's a cappella, and so comforting. And she literally says, "So baby, take my hand, you'll be all right." I mean, come on. I'm melting in her, if I was in the palm of her hand, I'd be melting. But this album is so much bigger than the sum of its parts. You went through the songs. I don't need to go through the songs. It's just more than that. It's more than her voice, and the performances and great production. This is the image that came into my mind this week as I was writing about it. A hard-boiled egg on Easter, a couple days before Easter. It's an egg. And then you put it in with the color tablet, and the vinegar and the hot water, and it comes out with all the color embedded right into the shell. This album is embedded right in my skin. And like an Easter egg, if you peel away the shell, even the whiteness underneath is colored by it. If you took away my skin, you would see this album has affected even the inners of me, just like that. And there's no getting it out. You don't rub the color out of an Easter egg. You don't rub this album out of me. I wore out 3 cassette tapes, bought a 4th, and finally bought it on CD. And then, you know, I got the picture discs and a couple of album versions.
Many
And,
copies. Yep.
yeah, I got several copies. I got so many copies of this album. You know, this one's in Spanish. This one's the original master recording version. What she needs to do is re-release these on vinyl, because there's no way of buying these on vinyl out there in the vinyl age unless you get an old beat up copy. Yeah. Re-release them, put on some live shit. I will buy every single one again as you release them, and release a new album too.
Yes.
So, but what this album is, and what most of her albums are to me, is, and I thought of this not too long ago, maybe a year ago, but these albums, the best way I could put it is they're just home. They're home to me. You know, you can say you're out with your wife at a, I don't know, a party that you're not digging, or you're out to dinner, and you can say, let's go home. That's one version of home. Or you can go back to maybe where you grew up and visit where you grew up, and you could tell people, I'm going back to visit my home. That's a totally different version of the word home. But now when I say that this music brings me home, the word almost gets like a third meaning, because this type of home doesn't require getting in a car. You don't even have to leave where you're sitting or standing.
It doesn't require a place or a building.
No, right? It doesn't reply. Your eyes can be shut. You could be in the dark. This home is deep within your soul, your heart, and your memories. And that's where this music brings me. And that's probably the best kind of home ever. And every time I listen to it, like Tropico or what the fuck? That's where it brings me home.
That's Black Sabbath for me. That's very well put.
Yeah. Everybody needs that kind of home.
Yeah, everybody has that one special artist or band, or maybe there's a couple of them, right? In my instance, there's probably a couple of them, but I think that for me, the one, Black Sabbath is it for me, because I always feel like the warm and fuzzies, no matter where I am when I hear their music. And it's just like, it takes you back and, you know, makes you realize all over again why music is so good for the soul, right? And it's, yeah.
Dio as much as Ozzy?
But yeah, all of it. Yep. Okay. So
good.
My number one, like I mentioned before, I didn't see this coming, to be honest with you. But as I revisited these albums and I listened to this one over and over again, I was kind of like, man, this is, to me, the perfect Pat Benatar album for me. And it has, I think the reason why I like it so much is because it has all the elements of what I like about her music, their music, I should say, all in one nice little package, and that is Precious Times. In fact, I think I almost gave it away a couple of weeks ago. Jamie and I were kind of texting back and forth, and I was talking about, man, Precious Times is so good. And you're like, yeah, it's a great album. And
I still thought Crimes of Passion was going to be here.
Yeah, well, I did too. It was really this week where I realized that it just overtook it. I was like, the more I kept listening to this, the more I'm like, man, this is just great. I mean, Promises in the Dark is terrific. Fire and Ice is just terrific. Just Like Me is so good. I mean, it's just, that's a great cover by them. You know, it's a Paul Revere and the Raiders song, which again, I didn't really even know. It's a Tough Life is so good.
Oh, you know what? When she goes at the end, it's a tough life, and goes, oh, it gets me. It's like, it's both aspects that I love about her. The motherly thing, oh, it's raining, you can't go outside, go clean your room. Or it also has a sexual thing going on. It's like both. I'm getting pulled in two directions just with that.
Yeah, it's so good. And one of the sleeper songs on this album, Evil Genius. I mean, it's so heavy, it's so anthemic. I'm like, oh,
and the lyrics are so crazy.
So good. Hard to Believe is great. And I love the cover of Helter Skelter. It's, I mean, Neil's guitar is just slashing all over the place. There's not a weak song to be found on here anywhere. Take It Any Way You Want It is so good as well. So memorable. I really like this. I like the fact that it's a fairly it's not quite as heavy and rocking as Crimes of Passion, but it's not that far off. But I think the songwriting is better on here overall. There's just some absolutely great material on here, and the couple of covers are really well done. I don't know, this is the one I've listened to the most over the last couple of weeks, and it just made me realize how much I always really like this. So yeah, it almost happened with this, but this is my number one.
Yeah, Helter Skelter and The Victim, I think, are two heaviest albums if I had to. And The Victim's off Get Nervous, where she was starting to go more new wave. Get Nervous, I keep my first copy I ever bought in a frame, along with Peace of Mind. Pretty much changed my life when I heard it. Stray Cats, Built for Speed, the first album I ever bought with my own money. And The Easter Bunny brought me Rush, Grace Under Pressure. Wow. Basically right around the week it came out. So there you go.
Cool. So there you have it, everybody.
I'm emotionally exhausted, Pete.
There you go. 90 minutes of talking about Pat Benatar will do it to anybody, right? So, especially Jamie. So for those of you watching in the comments below, please rank these 11 albums as you like them, or your top 5, whatever you want to do, and let us know why you have them and rank the way you rank them, because there's a lot to love in this catalog, and very happy that Pat and the band are getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, even though that doesn't really mean a hell of a lot to most of us anymore. I still think the fact that they're recognized for the greatness, I think that's what's more important. Not the ceremony, not all that bullshit. It's the fact that, like, you know, the recognition, I think, is what really matters. And I think it should have happened a long time ago.
Well, I do my own, Pete, every July 4th. And this year will be the 10th year of the Laszlo Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where I celebrate the 5 artists that get in all July 4th weekend. And she was first ballot.
There you go. No surprise there. So thanks everybody for tagging along here today and staying with us. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, all together, all the damn time. And thanks to Jamie for taking part in this and putting all that stuff together.
Oh, thank you for letting it happen.
Absolutely. This was fun for me too. So I know this was extra special for you, but a lot of fun for me as well. And especially for all the folks that complain that we don't talk enough about the ladies of music here on this channel. Well, here you go. So a well-deserved Pat Benatar. And thanks everybody for watching. And we'll see you Tuesday, because it's in the Prague Seat Week and UK Connection Week. So we'll see you this week on Tuesday and Saturday for both of those shows. Wednesday, we have new album reviews. And of course, Friday morning, I do that thing with Martin Popoff called Friday Morning at the Funhouse. That's happening as well. So thanks, everybody. Tune in for all this good stuff. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alerted of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. So for Jamie, Laszlo, I am Pete Pardo. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.